Jack Morrison stood on the observation deck of New Haven's main tower, watching the morning sun rise over the colony that had been his home for 30 years. The golden light spread across fields of green crops and neat rows of houses where 3 million people lived peaceful lives. Children walked to school while their parents headed to work in the factories and farms that made New Haven humanity's greatest success story. Paul Carter kissed his wife Lisa goodbye before leaving for his job at the power plant. Their twin children, Bobby and Sarah, ran past him toward the school bus, laughing and shouting to their friends. Paul smiled as he watched them go. Life on New Haven was everything Earth had promised when the first colonists arrived decades ago. Maria Santos checked her equipment at the communications center. As the colony's chief contact with Earth, she sent regular reports about their progress. The last message from Earth had arrived 6 months ago, bringing news and updates from home. The long delay never bothered anyone. Space was vast, and they had built a good life here. Captain Steve Phillips walked through the Colonial Defense Headquarters, reviewing the daily reports. New Haven had small defense forces, mostly for dealing with wildlife and equipment problems. No one expected trouble from space. Humans were peaceful explorers, not conquerors. They had never met hostile aliens, and most people believed they never would. The attack came without warning. Massive ships appeared in the sky above New Haven, blotting out the morning sun. They were unlike anything humans had ever built. Dark, angular vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The ships moved in perfect formation, surrounding the planet like predators circling prey. Jack Morrison activated the colony's emergency systems as alarms began wailing throughout New Haven. "This is Governor Morrison to all citizens," he announced over the public address system. "Please remain calm and proceed to your designated shelter areas. This is not a drill." The alien ships opened fire. Beams of sickly green energy struck New Haven's protective shields, causing them to flicker and spark. The shields had been designed to protect against asteroids and space debris, not military weapons. Within minutes, they began to fail. Paul Carter was halfway to work when the first energy beams broke through the atmosphere. The sky turned an unnatural shade of green as unknown chemicals began raining down. He turned his vehicle around and raced home, desperate to reach Lisa and the children. Steve Phillips gathered his small defense force at their base. They had training weapons and a few patrol ships, nothing that could fight the massive alien fleet overhead. "Get every civilian transport ready for evacuation," he ordered his officers. "Load them up and get them to the spaceport." The alien ships released clouds of poisonous gas that spread across New Haven like a deadly fog. Plants withered and died as the chemicals touched them. Animals collapsed in the fields. The very air became toxic to human life. Maria Santos worked frantically at her communications equipment as the building shook around her. She had to warn Earth about the attack. Her fingers flew over the controls, encoding an emergency message with everything she could record about the alien ships and weapons. Lisa Carter grabbed Bobby and Sarah as Paul burst through their front door. "We have to go now," Paul said, his face pale with fear. The green fog was visible through their windows, moving closer to their neighborhood. They ran to their vehicle, as their neighbors did the same, everyone heading for the evacuation centers. The alien commander, Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian hegemony, watched the destruction from his flagship. "The humans reproduced too quickly and spread too far," he told his officers. "Today we end their expansion before they become a threat to the galaxy." Jack Morrison reached the spaceport as the first evacuation ships began loading terrified colonists. Families clutched their children while elderly residents helped each other climb aboard the transports. The ships could only hold a few thousand people each, and there were millions who needed to escape. Steve Phillips and his defense force set up a perimeter around the spaceport, using their small weapons to try to slow down the spreading poison. "Hold this position," he commanded. "Every minute we buy saves more lives." The green clouds reached the outer settlements first. Paul Carter's family was among hundreds of thousands trying to reach safety, but the toxic air was spreading faster than people could run. Vehicles broke down as the chemicals ate through their engines. People collapsed as the poison entered their lungs. Maria Santos finished uploading her message to an automated probe, just as the communications building began dissolving around her. The alien weapons weren't just killing people, they were destroying everything humans had built. She activated the probe's launch sequence with her last breath, sending humanity's final warning toward Earth. The evacuation ships tried to escape into space, but the alien fleet was waiting. Green energy beams struck the defenseless transports one by one, turning them into expanding clouds of debris. Thousands of families died in seconds, their dreams of escape cut short by overwhelming firepower. Jack Morrison stood at the spaceport's command center, watching his people die. The poison had reached the landing field, and the remaining ships couldn't take off without killing their passengers. He opened a final communication channel to the alien fleet. "This is Governor Jack Morrison of New Haven Colony," he said. "We are a peaceful settlement. We have never harmed anyone. Why are you doing this?" Vexitar's reply was cold and emotionless. "Your species expands too quickly and claims too many worlds. The galaxy has decided that humans must be contained. New Haven is your warning." "Warning." Jack's voice broke with emotion. "You're murdering children. Your children would have become adults who built more colonies and claimed more planets. We prevent future problems by solving them now." The communication ended. Jack Morrison died at his post as the poison finally reached the spaceport's command center. Steve Phillips made his last stand at the spaceport's main gate, firing his weapon at the approaching green fog as if bullets could stop a chemical attack. He fell beside his men, all of them choosing to die fighting rather than surrender to the poison. Paul Carter held Lisa, Bobby, and Sarah close as their vehicle stopped working. The green fog surrounded them, and they faced the end together as a family. Their last words were declarations of love for each other. New Haven fell silent. The alien ships remained in orbit for 3 days, ensuring that every trace of human life was eliminated. Then they departed, leaving behind a dead world where a thriving colony had once stood. Maria Santos's probe drifted through space, carrying its terrible message toward Earth. The journey would take 6 months, but the warning would eventually reach home. The aliens had made one crucial mistake. They had assumed that humans would accept the destruction of New Haven as a lesson in submission. They were wrong. Fleet Admiral Helen Brooks sat in the war room deep beneath Geneva, staring at the message probe that had just arrived from New Haven. The small device looked harmless on the examination table, but she knew it carried the worst news Earth had ever received. "Play it again," Helen commanded. The holographic display activated, showing Maria Santos's final transmission. The image was shaky and filled with static, but the audio was clear enough. In the background, explosions shook the building while Santos spoke rapidly into her equipment. "This is New Haven Colony calling Earth. We are under attack by unknown alien forces. Multiple ships using chemical weapons. Our shields are failing. The atmosphere is becoming toxic. Governor Morrison is dead. Most evacuation ships have been destroyed. This may be our final transmission. Tell our families we love them. Tell Earth to be ready. They're coming." The recording ended with Santos collapsing at her station as green fog filled the communication center. President John Hayes entered the war room with his top advisors. Defense Secretary Karen Lewis looked pale, while General Frank Miller's jaw was set in a grim line. They had all watched the transmission multiple times, but seeing it again made the reality hit harder. "How many people lived on New Haven?" President Hayes asked. 2.3 million civilians, Helen replied, plus 50,000 colonial defense personnel. All dead? The follow-up probe we sent confirmed it 6 weeks ago. The planet's atmosphere is still toxic. Nothing survived. General Miller slammed his fist on the table. "We have to respond. We can't let aliens think they can murder our people without consequences." "With what?" Karen Lewis asked. "Our space fleet has 12 patrol ships and 30 cargo vessels. The aliens destroyed an entire colony with ease." President Hayes looked around the room at Earth's military leadership. "What are our options?" Dr. Amanda Foster, head of the Advanced Weapons Division, stood up from her seat at the back of the room. "There is something," she said quietly. "Project Titan." Everyone turned to look at her. Amanda had been quiet during previous discussions, working on her computer while others talked. Now she had their complete attention. Project Titan was started 20 years ago, Amanda explained. It was designed for exactly this situation, defending Earth against hostile alien forces. We've been building the foundation in secret, waiting for the day we might need it. What kind of foundation? Helen asked. Orbital manufacturing stations, automated mining operations in the asteroid belt, weapon designs, ship blueprints, everything needed to build a military fleet quickly if Earth was ever threatened. President Hayes leaned forward. How quickly? If we mobilize every resource on Earth and in the solar system, we could have a substantial fleet ready in 2 years. How substantial? General Miller asked. Amanda smiled grimly. Enough to make sure what happened to New Haven never happens again. Within hours of the president's decision, Earth transformed. Every television broadcast, radio signal, and internet connection carried the same message. Humanity was at war. The images from New Haven showed families dying in the streets, children collapsed in their parents' arms, and an entire civilization reduced to silence. Ryan Cooper, CEO of the largest orbital manufacturing company, received his orders while reviewing quarterly profits at his office station above Earth. Convert everything, the government official told him over a secure channel. Every factory, every construction platform, every automated system. We're building warships now. How many ships are we talking about? Ryan asked. As many as possible. The aliens think they taught us a lesson. We're going to teach them one instead. Tony Adams, chief engineer at Luna Shipyard, studied the blueprints that arrived from Dr. Foster's team. The Liberty-class battleship was unlike anything humans had ever built. 3 kilometers long and armed with enough weapons to destroy cities, it was designed for one purpose: overwhelming alien enemies with superior firepower. Can we actually build these? His assistant asked, looking at the massive ship design. We don't have a choice, Tony replied. New Haven had families living normal lives 6 months ago. Now they're all dead because we weren't ready to protect them. Construction began immediately. Every major corporation redirected their resources toward military production. Car factories started building fighter ships. Electronics companies produced targeting computers. Chemical plants manufactured explosives and fuel. The asteroid belt became humanity's primary source of raw materials. Mining ships that once worked slowly and carefully now operated around the clock, harvesting metal and minerals to feed Earth's growing war machine. Danny Rodriguez, newly promoted to fleet commander, oversaw the construction from a command station orbiting Mars. He watched as the first battleships took shape in the orbital shipyards, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight. How long until the first ships are ready? He asked his aide, Claire Johnson. 3 months for the first squadron, sir. Full production capacity should be reached in 8 months. And total numbers? Claire checked her computer tablet. Current projections show 400,000 battleships within 2 years, with support vessels bringing the total fleet to 500,000 ships. Danny whistled softly. The largest military fleet in human history. The largest military fleet in galactic history. According to our intelligence estimates, Claire corrected. Captain Linda Parker watched her new ship, the New Haven's Wrath, near completion at the Luna Yards. She had volunteered for this mission the day Earth received Maria Santos's message. Her brother had lived on New Haven with his family, working as a teacher at one of the schools. What's our mission profile? Lieutenant Sam Wright asked. At 25, Sam represented the new generation of humans who had grown up knowing that hostile aliens existed. Orbital bombardment specialist, Linda replied. When we reach alien space, our job is to make sure their worlds look like what they did to New Haven. Good, Sam said simply. Dr. Foster worked 18 hours a day in her laboratory, designing weapons specifically for fighting the aliens Earth had learned about from the New Haven recordings. The Zephyrians, as intelligence analysts had named them, used energy shields and bioweapons. Human responses would be kinetic weapons that could punch through energy barriers and sealed combat suits that protected against chemical attacks. The aliens made one critical mistake. Amanda explained to a meeting of ship captains. They assumed we would be afraid after they destroyed New Haven. Instead, they gave us the motivation to become something we never thought we'd need to be. What's that? One captain asked. Conquerors. Matt Thompson, navigation specialist for the growing fleet, calculated jump routes to the Zephyrian home system. The aliens had made their location known when they attacked New Haven. Now Earth knew exactly where to find them. How long to reach their territory? Admiral Brooks asked during a planning session. 6 months at maximum hyperspace speed, Matt replied. We'll arrive at their borders with overwhelming force before they expect any human response. President Hayes addressed the world on the second anniversary of New Haven's destruction. Behind him stood Admiral Brooks, General Miller, and Dr. Foster. In orbit above Earth, 500,000 warships waited in perfect formation. The aliens who destroyed New Haven believed they were teaching humanity a lesson about staying in our place, the president said. Today we begin teaching them a lesson about what happens when humans are pushed too far. Admiral Brooks stepped forward to the podium. The fleet departs for alien space in 72 hours. Our mission is simple. Ensure that no alien force ever again thinks they can attack human civilians without facing the full wrath of Earth. Helen looked directly into the camera, knowing that intelligence reports suggested some alien species monitored human communications. To any aliens listening to this broadcast, what you did to New Haven was the worst mistake in galactic history. We are coming, and we are bringing 500,000 reasons why you should have left us alone. The transmission ended, and Earth began its final preparations for humanity's first interstellar war. Fleet Commander Danny Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, watching the greatest sight in human history unfold before him. 500,000 warships stretched across space in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming like stars against the darkness. Each ship was 3 kilometers of human engineering and determination, built for one purpose, making the aliens pay for what they did to New Haven. Fleet status report, Danny commanded. Communications Officer Claire Johnson checked her displays. All ships report ready for departure, sir. 200,000 heavy assault battleships, 150,000 carrier vessels, 100,000 support ships, and 50,000 orbital bombardment specialists. Crew readiness, 400 million personnel at battle stations. Every ship fully staffed and equipped, Danny nodded. The numbers were almost impossible to believe. In 2 years, Earth had transformed from a peaceful planet with a small space presence into a military power that could challenge anyone in the galaxy. The industrial effort had been unlike anything in human history. Captain Linda Parker walked through the corridors of the UES New Haven's Wrath, checking on her crew before departure. The ship carried 800 people, all volunteers who had signed up after learning about the colony's destruction. Many had lost friends or family on New Haven. Others simply believed that humanity needed to show strength against alien aggression. Captain, Lieutenant Sam Wright called from the weapons control station. All torpedo tubes loaded and ready. Main guns charged and targeted. What about our special payload? Linda asked quietly. The planet killer warheads are secure and armed. When we reach the alien homeworld, we can deliver the same kind of destruction they gave to New Haven. Linda felt no guilt about their mission. The aliens had started this war by murdering innocent civilians. Now they would learn what happened when humans fought back with everything they had. Navigation specialist Matt Thompson worked at his station on the Vengeance's bridge, coordinating jump calculations for the massive fleet. Moving 500,000 ships through hyperspace required precision that had never been attempted before. Jump routes calculated and distributed to all vessels, Matt reported. We'll arrive at the edge of alien space in formation, ready for immediate combat operations. Any chance they'll detect us coming? Danny asked. Not until we drop out of hyperspace directly on top of them, Matt smiled. By then it will be too late for them to organize any defense. Dr. Amanda Foster monitored the fleet's weapon systems from her command post aboard the UES Retribution. Every ship carried the new kinetic bombardment systems designed specifically for fighting aliens. The weapons fired tungsten rods at enormous speed, creating impacts that could destroy entire cities. Weapon system status across all ships? Amanda asked her technical team. Green across the board, Chief Weapons Engineer Bobby Martinez replied. Every ship reports full ammunition loads and optimal weapon readiness. The aliens have never faced anything like this. Good. They murdered 2.3 million innocent people. Today we show them that humans don't forgive and we don't forget. Captain Michelle Davis prepared her fighter squadrons aboard the carrier UES Eagle Strike. The ship held 5,000 single-pilot fighters, each one faster and more maneuverable than anything the aliens had shown during their attack on New Haven. All pilots ready for launch? Michelle asked over the communication system. Ready and waiting, Captain. came the reply from Lieutenant Jake Foster, her squadron leader. "We've been training for this moment for 2 years. The aliens won't know what hit them. Remember, our primary targets are their command ships. Take out their leadership and their fleet coordination will collapse." Admiral Helen Brooks observed the fleet from her command ship, the UES Earth's Fury. She had spent 30 years in Earth's small, peaceful navy, never imagining she would one day command the largest military force in galactic history. "Admiral," her aide reported, "all fleet commanders report ready for departure. The President is standing by for final authorization." Helen activated her communication channel to Earth. "Mr. President, the fleet is ready to depart on your orders." President Hayes's voice came through clearly from Earth. "Admiral Brooks, you have authorization to begin Operation Retribution. Make sure the galaxy understands that attacking human civilians has consequences." "Understood, sir. We'll bring justice for New Haven." General Frank Miller watched from Earth Command as the massive fleet prepared to jump to alien space. The sight filled him with pride and sadness. Pride because humanity had accomplished something incredible in just 2 years. Sadness because it had taken the deaths of millions to motivate this achievement. "Think we have enough ships?" his aide asked jokingly. "For what the aliens did to New Haven?" Frank replied seriously. "We could have built 1,000,000 ships and it still wouldn't be enough. But 500,000 will have to do." Captain Doug Martinez stood ready at the bridge of the UES Justice Delivered, one of the bombardment specialists designed to destroy planets. His ship carried weapons that could crack a world's crust and poison its atmosphere, the same fate that had befallen New Haven. "Target priorities confirmed," his weapons officer reported. "Primary target is the alien capital world. Secondary targets are their major military installations. When we finish with them, their worlds will be as dead as New Haven," Doug said grimly. "That's exactly what they deserve." Ryan Cooper floated in his orbital manufacturing station, watching the fleet through the massive viewing windows. 2 years ago, he had been building civilian spacecraft and orbital habitats. Now his factories had produced the tools of humanity's revenge. "Hard to believe we actually did it," his assistant said, staring at the endless rows of warships. "The aliens thought they were dealing with the same peaceful humans who built New Haven," Ryan replied. "They're about to learn that humans have other sides to their nature." Tony Adams completed his final inspection of the Luna shipyards, now empty after producing their quota of warships. The construction facilities had worked non-stop for 2 years, turning out finished battleships faster than anyone had thought possible. Production exceeded all projections, Tony reported to Earth Command. "We delivered more ships than initially planned. If this fleet can't handle the aliens, nothing can." Claire Johnson coordinated the final communication checks between all 500,000 ships. The task required computer systems working beyond their normal limits, but everything functioned perfectly. "All ships report communication systems optimal," Claire announced to the fleet. "Command and control networks are fully operational." Danny Rodriguez looked around the bridge of the Vengeance at his officers. These people represented the best of humanity, intelligent, determined, and united in their purpose. The aliens had made the mistake of thinking that destroying one human colony would make the rest surrender in fear. "All ships, prepare for hyperspace jump," Danny announced over the fleet communication system. "Destination, alien space. Mission, make them pay for New Haven." The response came back from 400 million voices. "For New Haven!" Space around Earth filled with the light of 500,000 ships engaging their hyperspace drives simultaneously. The massive fleet tore holes in reality itself as they departed the solar system, leaving Earth behind to carry out humanity's promise of retribution. Admiral Brooks watched Earth disappear behind them as the fleet jumped to hyperspace. "Next stop, alien territory," she said quietly. "They wanted to teach us a lesson about staying in our place. Time to teach them a lesson about what happens when you murder human families." The greatest military fleet in galactic history raced through hyperspace toward its destination, carrying with it the hopes and anger of an entire species. The aliens had started this war thinking they were dealing with weak, scattered humans. They were about to discover their terrible mistake. Supreme Commander Casthey of the Zephyrian Hegemony stood in his command center on Zirian Prime, reviewing routine patrol reports from the outer territories. 2 years had passed since the successful elimination of the human colony called New Haven. The operation had been perfect, a quick strike that eliminated a growing threat before it could spread further. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving unusual readings from our border sensors. Massive gravitational distortions appearing at the edge of hegemony space. Probably another asteroid cluster drifting through the system. Cathay replied without looking up from his reports. Send a patrol ship to investigate. The communications officer hesitated. Sir, the distortions are too large and too organized to be asteroids. Our sensors indicate something much bigger. Cathay finally looked at the display screen showing their territory's outer boundaries. The readings were indeed strange. Patterns of energy that suggested artificial origins rather than natural phenomena. Send the 3rd Defense Fleet to investigate, he commanded. If some species is testing our borders, they need to learn about hegemony strength. Admiral Vextar, the military leader who had personally destroyed New Haven, received the order aboard his flagship. He had been expecting this day eventually. The humans were a persistent species, and he knew some survivors from their other colonies would eventually seek revenge. How many human ships do our intelligence reports suggest they might send? Vextar asked his staff. Analysis indicates they have limited spacefaring capability, his intelligence officer replied. Perhaps 50 vessels at most. Their industrial capacity is centered on their home planet, which limits their ability to build large fleets. 50 ships against our 3rd Defense Fleet of 2,000 vessels should provide adequate demonstration of hegemony power, Vextar decided. We'll destroy their revenge expedition and then eliminate their home planet to end the human problem permanently. The first human ships began dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of Zephyrian territory. Captain Bobby Turner commanded the Advanced Reconnaissance Squadron, 12 ships tasked with gathering intelligence about alien defensive positions. Target analysis complete, Bobby reported back to the main fleet. 12 inhabited worlds in this system. Minimal civilian populations, heavy military presence. They've militarized their entire society. Defensive capabilities, Fleet Commander Danny Rodriguez asked from the Vengeance. Their ships use energy weapons and particle shields. Standard tactics from our intelligence reports. Nothing our weapons can't handle. Proceed with Phase 1. The main human fleet began emerging from hyperspace in waves. First came the heavy assault battleships, their massive hulls bristling with kinetic weapons. Then the carriers disgorged clouds of fighter craft. Support vessels took defensive positions while the bombardment specialists moved into orbital strike formation. Vextar stared at his tactical displays in growing horror as more and more human ships appeared. The numbers kept climbing, 1,000, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. Still they came, filling space with an armada beyond anything in recorded galactic history. How many ships are we detecting? He asked his sensor officer, his voice strained. Current count is 400,000 vessels, sir, with more still arriving. This is impossible. No species has the industrial capacity to build such a fleet. Send immediate reinforcements from all surrounding systems. Alert the High Command that we face a human invasion force of unprecedented size. Captain Michelle Davis launched her fighter squadrons from the UES Eagle Strike, watching as 5,000 small craft joined hundreds of thousands more from other carriers. The space around the alien system filled with human fighters like a swarm of angry insects. All squadrons target alien command vessels first, Michelle broadcast to her pilots. Lieutenant Jake Foster, take your wing and eliminate their flagship. The rest of you, follow your assigned targets. Copy that, Captain, Jake replied, leading his fighters toward Vextar's command ship. Time to pay them back for New Haven. The battle began with precision that terrified the Zephyrians. Each human battleship locked onto multiple alien vessels simultaneously, overwhelming their targeting systems with sheer numbers. Captain Doug Martinez aboard the UES Justice delivered, coordinated his bombardment group's first strike. All bombardment vessels, commence planetary targeting, Doug commanded. Show them exactly what they did to New Haven. Tungsten rods accelerated to enormous speeds struck Zephyrian military installations across 12 worlds. The kinetic impacts created explosions visible from space, turning alien bases into smoking craters. The same weapons that could have protected New Haven now delivered humanity's revenge. Admiral Vextar watched his fleet dissolve under the human assault. His ship's energy shields, designed to deflect plasma weapons, proved useless against the kinetic bombardment raining down from human battleships. Vessels that had seemed invincible 2 years ago crumpled like paper under the tungsten rod impacts. Sir, we're receiving a direct communication from the human fleet, his communications officer reported. Put it through. Captain Doug Martinez's voice filled Vextar's command center. "This is Captain Martinez of the Human Defense Force. You are Admiral Vextar, the alien commander who destroyed New Haven Colony." "I am Vextar of the Zephyrian Hegemony," the alien replied. "Your revenge attempt is futile. Even if you destroy this fleet, the Hegemony has thousands of worlds and millions of ships." "Had," Doug corrected. "You had thousands of worlds. We're in the process of changing that. This fleet you're facing, it's just the beginning. Earth sends its regards for the 2.3 million innocent people you murdered." 50 human battleships surrounded Vextar's flagship, their weapons trained on the alien vessel. The admiral who had once rained death on human families now found himself completely outgunned and outnumbered. "You cannot destroy entire civilizations," Vextar protested. "The galactic community will not allow such actions." "The galactic community didn't stop you from poisoning New Haven's children," Doug replied coldly. "They didn't protect human families when you turned our atmosphere toxic. Why should we care about your protection now?" Captain Linda Parker coordinated the bombardment of the alien capital world from her ship, New Haven's Wrath. The planet-killer weapons her vessel carried were designed to duplicate exactly what the aliens had done to the human colony. "Atmospheric poisoning systems ready," her weapons officer reported. "We can make their air as toxic as they made New Haven's." "Fire," Linda commanded without hesitation. Green clouds began spreading across the alien capital world, the same color that had killed Paul Carter's family and millions of other innocent humans. Zephyrian civilians fled through their cities just as human colonists had fled through New Haven streets 2 years earlier. Lieutenant Sam Wright watched the alien world die from his station aboard New Haven's Wrath. At 25, he had never known a time when humanity wasn't at war with the species that had murdered an entire colony. "Captain, should we target their evacuation ships?" Sam asked. Linda Parker looked at the display showing alien transports trying to escape their dying planet. For a moment, she remembered the recordings from New Haven showing human evacuation ships being destroyed by alien fire. "Negative," she decided. "We're here for military targets. We're not them." The Zephyrian 3rd Defense Fleet ceased to exist within 6 hours. 2,000 alien warships reduced to debris clouds drifting through space. The human fleet remained in perfect formation, barely damaged despite facing determined resistance. Admiral Helen Brooks received reports from across the battle zone aboard the UES Earth's Fury. Every engagement showed the same result: overwhelming human victory achieved through superior numbers and firepower. "Casualty report?" Helen asked her aide. "Minimal losses, Admiral. The aliens' weapons couldn't penetrate our armor effectively. They were designed for fighting other alien species, not human military technology." Danny Rodriguez opened a communication channel to the surviving alien vessels scattered throughout the system. His voice carried to every Zephyrian ship and planet in the area. "This is Fleet Commander Rodriguez of the Human Defense Force. 2 years ago, your species attacked and destroyed New Haven Colony, killing 2.3 million innocent civilians, including children and families. You thought you were teaching humanity a lesson about staying in our place." He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. "Today begins your education about what happens when humans are pushed too far. Your military forces in this system have been eliminated. Your worlds are under human occupation. This fleet will continue advancing through hegemony territory until every alien involved in New Haven's destruction has been held accountable. But understand this clearly. We are not conquerors seeking territory. We are not invaders seeking slaves. We are parents, children, brothers, and sisters seeking justice for our murdered families. When that justice is complete, this war will end." Vextar listened to the human commander's words as his flagship drifted powerless in space, surrounded by the overwhelming human fleet. He had started this war believing humans were weak and scattered. Now he watched his civilization beginning to crumble under the weight of humanity's industrial might and unified anger. President John Hayes stood before the assembled representatives of 12 different alien species in what had once been the Zephyrian Capitol building. 6 months had passed since the human fleet began its campaign of retribution, and the Zephyrian hegemony no longer existed as a political entity. "The war is over," President Hayes announced to the galactic delegates. "Every military installation that participated in the New Haven attack has been destroyed. Every leader who ordered the massacre has been captured or eliminated. The Zephyrian hegemony's ability to threaten anyone ever again has been permanently removed. Ambassador Julie Martin stood beside the president, having spent weeks negotiating with various alien governments that had rushed to distance themselves from the Zephyrians. Once humanity's true military power became clear, the galaxy's political landscape had shifted dramatically in just 6 months. The Crystalline Confederation wishes to establish formal, diplomatic relations with Earth, the Crystalline representative announced, its voice translated by advanced computers. We had no involvement in the New Haven incident and seek peaceful coexistence with humanity. The Hive worlds echo this sentiment, added another delegate. We condemn the Zephyrian actions and offer trade agreements beneficial to both our species. Fleet Admiral Helen Brooks watched the proceedings from her command station aboard the UES Earth's Fury, now orbiting the former Zephyrian capital world. The planet had been renamed New Geneva and was rapidly becoming the administrative center for human operations in this sector of the galaxy. Admiral, her communications officer reported, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 more Zephyrian military outposts. They're requesting permission to evacuate their personnel before we arrive. Grant the requests, Helen decided. Our war was with their leadership and military forces, not their civilians. Let them evacuate non-combatants before we secure the installations. Captain Steve Richards commanded the UES Peacekeeper, overseeing the establishment of humanity's first permanent military base in former Zephyrian territory. The massive orbital platform served both as a monument to New Haven's victims and as a warning to any species considering hostile actions against human civilians. Base construction is ahead of schedule. Steve reported to Fleet Command. We'll have full operational capability within 3 months. From here, we can monitor this entire sector of space. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Adams worked with refugee coordination efforts, ensuring that displaced Zephyrian civilians received food, medical care, and temporary housing. Despite the destruction of their military, humanity had made efforts to protect innocent alien populations caught in the conflict. How many refugees are we currently supporting? Lisa asked her assistant. Approximately 50,000 Zephyrian civilians plus smaller numbers from other species that lived in hegemony territory, came the reply. Most are requesting relocation to neutral worlds rather than remaining under human administration. Grant those requests. We're not interested in ruling over alien populations. We just want to make sure they can never again build military forces capable of attacking human colonies. Danny Rodriguez received reports from across former Zephyrian space aboard the flagship Vengeance. The systematic destruction of their military capability had proceeded faster than anyone had expected, largely because most alien forces surrendered rather than face the overwhelming human fleet. Final tally of enemy forces eliminated? Danny asked his staff. Approximately 40,000 Zephyrian warships destroyed or captured, sir. Over 800 military installations secured. Their shipyards and weapons manufacturing facilities have been permanently dismantled. And our casualties? Fewer than 10,000 personnel lost across the entire campaign. The aliens never adapted to fighting our tactics and technology. General Carl Thompson supervised construction of New Haven Memorial Station at the site of the destroyed colony. The massive structure would serve as both a research facility and a permanent reminder of what had happened to humanity's first deep space settlement. The memorial wall is complete, Carl reported to Earth during his weekly briefing. Every name of every person who died at New Haven has been engraved in quantum crystal. It will last forever, and the research facilities, operational within 2 months. We'll use this station to study alien technology and ensure that Earth stays ahead of any potential future threats. Dr. Amanda Foster worked in her new laboratory aboard the research vessel UES Discovery, analyzing captured Zephyrian technology to better understand their capabilities and weaknesses. The knowledge gained would help protect future human colonies from similar attacks. Their bioweapons are actually fairly primitive, Amanda explained to her research team. Effective against unprepared populations, but easily countered with proper protective equipment and medical treatment. What about their space fleet technology? Decades behind human engineering in most areas. They relied on numerical superiority and surprise attacks rather than technological advancement. Once we were prepared for war, they had no significant advantages. Captain Michelle Davis toured the captured Zephyrian shipyard, that was being converted into a human naval facility. The aliens had built impressive manufacturing capabilities, but their ships were designed for fighting other aliens rather than humans. This facility will be perfect for maintaining our patrol fleet, Michelle told the engineering team. We can keep a permanent presence in this sector without straining Earth's industrial capacity. Lieutenant Jake Foster, now promoted to squadron commander, led regular patrol missions throughout former Zephyrian territory. The human presence ensured that no hostile forces could rebuild in the region. Any signs of organized resistance? Michelle asked during Jake's mission briefing. Nothing significant, Captain. Most aliens in this sector seem more interested in trade negotiations than military action. Word has spread about what happened to the Zephyrians. Ryan Cooper's manufacturing stations had transitioned from warship production to building the infrastructure needed for permanent human presence in alien space. Orbital habitats, research facilities, and communication networks grew rapidly throughout the conquered territory. The expansion is exceeding all projections, Ryan reported to Earth's Industrial Council. Within 5 years, we'll have established permanent human settlements on a dozen worlds in this sector. President Hayes concluded his address to the galactic community from his office in New Geneva. Behind him, the lights of a growing human city sparkled against the alien landscape. Let me be clear about humanity's position going forward, he said, looking directly into the camera that would broadcast his words across the galaxy. We did not seek this war. We did not want to become a military power. The Zephyrians forced us into this role when they murdered our families. But now that we have demonstrated our capabilities, let there be no misunderstanding. Any species that threatens human civilians, any government that attacks our colonies, any military force that targets our people, will face the same response the Zephyrians received. We prefer peace, trade, and cooperation. We will welcome any species that approaches us with honest intentions, but we will never again allow anyone to think that human lives can be taken without consequences. Admiral Vextar sat in his cell aboard a human prison ship, watching through the window as human vessels patrolled space that had once belonged to the hegemony. His decision to destroy New Haven had seemed logical at the time. Eliminate a growing threat before it could spread. Now he understood the terrible mistake he had made. Humans weren't just another species to be managed or controlled. When threatened, they became something the galaxy had never seen before, a unified force capable of overwhelming any opposition through sheer determination and industrial might. Fleet Admiral Helen Brooks reviewed the final reports from Operation Retribution in her private office aboard the Earth's Fury. In 6 months, humanity had transformed from a minor presence in galactic affairs to the dominant military power in this sector of space. Any regrets about how we handled this? Her aide asked. Helen looked out at the human fleet maintaining patrol routes through former enemy territory. About destroying military forces that murdered our civilians. No. About becoming the kind of species that can build 500,000 warships in 2 years? Sometimes. But we did what we had to do. Yes. And the galaxy understands now that humans will go to any lengths necessary to protect our people. That should prevent future tragedies like New Haven. Captain Doug Martinez commanded the UES Justice, delivered on its final patrol mission. Before returning to Earth, the ship that had carried planet-killer weapons now served as a peaceful escort for trade, vessels, and diplomatic missions. Hard to believe it's over, his weapons officer commented. The shooting war is over, Doug corrected. Now comes the harder part, building a peace that ensures New Haven never happens again. Young colonists from Earth arrived daily at the newly terraformed worlds throughout former Zephyrian space. Children played in parks built where alien military bases had once stood. Schools opened in buildings that had housed weapons laboratories. Life replaced the machinery of war. Captain Linda Parker walked through New Geneva's Central Plaza, watching human families begin new lives on a world that had once